Hey there and welcome to another School Rune Showcase. This one I'm going to be going through the Primal Nature School Runes that came out in the recent festival. In the previous one that I released yesterday, I went through the charging ones, and those ones I really wanted to focus on in one specific video. In this one I'm going to be talking about the Primal School Runes, which are the two other ones, as well as nature builds as a whole for each class, because the 7 most recent school runes have all been nature, and really it's made nature a lot more viable in each class. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the school runes first of all. First up, we got Primal. Oh, actually, I should talk about where they get them. So in the festival, you've got the entry achievements. You then got the tier 1 achievements, which are to do some tournament runs and the gold map runs. Then you unlock the tier 2 achievements, which so those get you the other runes. Then you unlock the tier 2 ones, and for doing 100 tournaments more, you get one of the school runes. So that's where you get Primal Ball here, and then the other one is in the challenge achievements. You've got to spend 1,250 gems doing the Xenoden map 5 times, and then you get the other rune. So for Wizard we've got Primal Ball as the first one. This one has the extra effect, which I'm not particularly keen on. It's the same, this rune is almost exactly the same as Radiant Ball, it's just a tiny bit more damage. So for the next second after you use it, you get 20% nature stat, which is not that much anyway, and then if you actually have your nature stats at 100% or whatever, it's going to be like a 10% boost to your nature damage, so it's just not really that useful. I would kind of ignore that effect. So this is just a damage rune, and what's important here is the area of effect of it as well, which it has got the bigger area of effect, the same size as Empowered Fire Blast, Radiant Ball, so it's going to hit a large area. Perfectly fine, nice skill, does some good nature damage, and we didn't have a good nature one on this before, we just had Nature Ball that's really weak, so yeah, good to have on there. You need it for the full nature build. And the other one is Earth Wave. So Mana Storm's actually had a huge revamp here. It's been, well, I say a revamp, it's changed from pet skill to normal skill, and interestingly this means you can compare it to Mana Bolts, because now this damage actually translates perfectly. So the damage here, 58%, that hits 5 times, and with Mana Bolts you have 58% here, which hits 5 times. So all the runes you can actually compare directly as well. The difference is Mana Bolts you can do from range, and it's just really a single target skill, whereas Mana Storm is close range and it hits all enemies that are in there, as well as slowing them. So anyway, this new one, Earth Wave, you can actually compare to Flame Cannon, because the static damage on this is 15,000 and it's got 61% nature damage. Flame Cannon here has got the 15,000 static damage and it's 52%, so it's slightly weaker. So yeah, it's going to be the same kind of damage as Flame Cannon, except for the fact that it can hit multiple enemies. So it's pretty damn nice. However, when you compare it to the other school runes on this, it doesn't really stand out, and that's what I wanted to kind of get to, is Stone Storm here. That's actually got the extra base damage that hits if they're below half health, and that static damage is a lot. I mean, it's like about the equivalent of 30%. So if you look here at Earth Wave, that's doing about 90% every second when it hits. Stone Storm's going to be doing about 80%, but then will do 110% if they're below half health. So this one, Earth Wave, doesn't really stand out in terms of damage compared to some of the other ones on the class. Sorry, on the skill. However, the extra effect is where it really comes into its own. So I haven't really tested out the Mana Storm skills that much, because this skill for me has just been useless for like 2 years. So I'm testing it out in PvP now, and this extra effect is a PvP effect. In PvE, it's just going to knock back enemies, and ultimately you kind of want them in the storm. There's no reason why you'd want to knock them back, so it's kind of useless. However, in PvP, it's then a stun. So it's got the effect that you can teleport in, you can then use Earth Wave, and it will stun the enemies, and then be dealing damage to them, and they're stuck in there. You can use other skills. You don't have to teleport in there and use something like Ice Skull Splash, followed up by Mana Storm and the other skills. So it may be really useful, but I don't really want to say that it is very useful, because I haven't tested it out myself. But anyway, so that effect is also on Frost Wave. We've seen it before. It's very similar to there. It's just got a tiny bit more damage. The effect which I really like on the Mana Storm skill runes are on Scorching Spiral and Sandstorm, and that means that you have a 50% chance to avoid attacks when you're stood inside it. It's not special attacks as well. I think it's just normal attacks. But anyway, it's a cool effect, and those ones do a lot less damage. They don't have the static damage on there. So like I was saying, that 15,000 is equivalent to like 30%. So here, it's like 90% nature against 60% fire. Kind of iffy. But anyway, that nature damage in total say it's doing 90%, does that 5 times, it's like 450% nature that it does over the 5 seconds, and the cooldown's not too bad. So yeah, this is a great damage skill rune. So you'll see this now when I do it. If you watched my video yesterday, you would have seen how much damage Forest Burst does. I'll just show again. This is a skill which does like 122% nature, and not really any static damage. So you'll see kind of how much damage it does to them each time I use it. Not very much. I'm kind of weak right now. My crits are doing 3 times the amount if you want to know. So now I use an Earth Wave. As you can probably or hopefully see, that did quite a bit of damage. And of course, you can always use Mimic to duplicate this. So I'm going to do that now. Unfortunately, I think the Mimic version does pet damage, so it's not really so useful. But as you can see, you get a lot of damage coming out. So that's that on there. And then obviously you've got Primal Ball, which, like I said, is just basically, you know, a nature version of the skill. Oh, I'm stunned for this time. But yeah, it's basically just a nature version of the skill. Quite handy. I'm just going to put auto crit on here now, so we can get some consistent damage. So you can see it does some quite good damage, but nothing too special. Just a nature version of it. So now I'm just going to talk about the nature build as a whole on the wizard class, because these have all added up to be quite nice overall. So I've got a good damage one here for Arcane Ball. We've got the Forest Burst, which isn't so useful, but powers up the really powerful Forest Bolts. Nature Drake's always good for PvE, and then we've got, you know, some solid nature runes there. Don't know why we needed this one, to be honest, because we've already got more. Mad Squirrel is very good as well. A lovely, lovely skill rune. We've also got a Healing Shrine one here, and Healing Fountain one here. And yeah, on the whole, a lot of nature skill runes, and some really good ones, standout ones like Mad Squirrel and Forest Bolts. However, I would say a nature build isn't as viable as the other builds, purely because there's a few skill runes on the other elements which are kind of vital to the overall build, as well as that Master Device is always going to make water builds very easy and accessible for people, because they can just always have that, you know, well, not always, but it's not a constant buff, but you know, they can power up their water skills for a decent amount of time. So yeah, the things which are kind of missing are Fiery Aura, that's just an incredible PvP skill. Flame Breath, just on the whole, great damage output from that. You can't really deny it, and to not have that in your setup is you're kind of you're losing something great there. Empowered Frozen Sphere as well. That has a brilliant slow effect on it, which is excellent for PvP. And I wouldn't really want to pick just a damage skill over that. So yeah, you kind of need that for the slow effect. And there's no good skill rune for Arcane Beam. This is huge, a huge deal really, because this is a good skill for PvE, and actually now it's quite a good skill for PvP too. So not having that, not having a nature rune on there means if you go for a full nature build, you're going to be missing out on quite a bit of damage output there. So not on the whole great damage output necessarily. So yeah, I wouldn't say nature builds on Wizard are the best, but there's definitely some viability there now with some great options. So I'm going to go on to the Archer skill runes now. For Archers, we've got new ones are Primal Volley and what's it? Rain of Earth. That's it. So these two are for some pretty good skills. They're skills which do actually get used by people. So Primal Volley here. This deals not much static damage at all. Slightly higher percent damage than the other skills there, the other runes there. But that static damage, because it's lower, means that ultimately it's actually very slightly weaker than Water Volley. It does attack at the faster rate, which is good that they're continuing that on and making more skill runes like that. But ultimately, this is just basically a nature version of the other skill runes. There's nothing that special about it. It's just a nature version of Volley, which is perfectly fine. It's needed. Definitely needed to have a nature version of that. For ages, Archers were complaining about not having nature damage, so having it one on Volley is good. The other one is Rain of Earth, so this is cool for the reason it's got static damage on it, which the others don't on that initial hit. However, and also the percent damage I guess is kind of higher. However, basically, Rain of Horror is really good with the extra slow effect. It also has silence in PvP, but that slow effect is ultimately what makes that skill rune amazing. And Rain of Earth does not have that, it just has a little bit of extra damage. So it's a nature version of Rain of Arrows, but doesn't have anything particularly special that makes it stand out. So yeah, this skill isn't even about damage that much anyway. so having just more damage doesn't really help out that much. So I'm being a bit negative about both these Skuruns, but they're perfectly fine. They kind of add to the overall build, and yeah, I'm just gonna go show them in combat now. So have I actually got? Oh no, I haven't got Primal Body equipped. Hold on there. So Primal Body I'm going to use. I've got it level 99, so it's got good base damage on it. But yeah, as you can see, I'm not geared up properly, so I'm not doing much damage. But that's the effect there, and I'll just show the speed of how fast it comes out. So if I'm running around, I use it, and then I can run on pretty quick. Quite nice to do. So yeah, you can put that into things, and then you've got the Rain of Earth, makes them run away. But the bigger enemies, it won't make them run away, and doesn't slow them. So they're just going to run everywhere, and you're going to struggle to attack them. Which Rain of Horror is much better for that reason. So yeah, bit down on the runes, but hey ho. Now with a nature build for archers, what a build really needs is a barbed arrow Skurun. That's ultimately what makes the build, and that's what makes both fire and water viable, because they've each got this really good Skurun that doesn't have a stack limit. Now Thor's arrow is there, however it's got the stack limit to 3, which means your damage is limited, and it's just not going to be that great. So even though we've actually got a fair amount of nature Skuruns on the different skills, which are quite good, I wouldn't say nature build's viable because of, for that reason. And Venom Turret here, this deals a lot of damage. It's really good. It hits area of effect and everything, so that can be used as your nature skill when you've got to do nature damage in PvE. And so as for PvP, I just kind of leave it. So that's my personal opinion. However, if you did want to make a nature build, there's kind of some stuff there that's quite good. And yeah, it's just it's lacking some of the things which the other elements have, like fire and water especially. So anyway, I'm going to move on to the Night Skuruns now. I just realised when switching over to Night here, I didn't equip the Archer with the extra gear, so it really was underpowered. I'm sorry for that. Should have been doing a lot more damage. So here, for the Night, we've got the new Skuruns are Primal Maim and the Dual Wield. So Nature Wield here. So Primal Maim, this has a big name to live up to with Flowing Blades. Flowing Blades deals 420% water, as well as some static damage. That's just awesome. As well as doing a slightly longer stun, well, a much longer stun. So it's a bit hard to match up against this. However, the nature damage on this is good. If you compare it to something like Empowered Fireblade, it does deal a lot of damage. That 320% nature is going to be very handy. The extra bonus of nature afterwards, kind of pointless. But yeah, and it's got 3 seconds stun, which is, you know, what you need. But PvP it's 2 seconds, that really doesn't match up to the Flowing Blades again. So yeah, it's a good nature Skurun. It has a lot of damage on it, but doesn't match up to Flowing Blades. It's just by far the second... Oh, we've got Radiant Maim as well. Okay, so it's kind of like Radiant Maim, just a little bit more powerful. Forgot about that one. Definitely a lot better than Thunderblade. So yeah, good to get a nature rune on this. We really needed one for Maim. And then for Nature Wield. So Dual Wield, if you watched my best Skuruns for all classes video a while ago, I talked about Empowered Twin Smite being the best, and actually I later changed that. It's Shadow Wield and Light Wield. They add damage onto your basic attacks, each one, and that damage crits, which is actually considerable. It's really good. So Nature Wield is exactly the same as these guys. It adds that damage onto each hit, and ultimately means that you do a lot of nature damage as you're attacking. Really, really good. And so we've now got these for 3 elements, which makes each one of those builds very solid. I think it's important to have that in there to make the Night build very strong. So now I'm just going to go quickly show them, because I've got about 1 minute. But yeah, nature builds on Night, that is actually really, really good. You'll see the nature damage come in a second. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it's starting to come in. And yeah, it's a nice amount. Maim as well. If I do it, it's not really going to... I'll do it on a small enemy. There we go. Bang. Almost killed it. So yeah, those are the good ones. They're both really good Skuruns. I'm happy with them. So nature builds on the whole on Night are actually really, really good. We've got lots of skills on... lots of runes on the right skills. Dancing Toxic as well is insanely powerful. This one is one of the Skuruns that makes other elements look bad, because like Dancing Toxic's so strong you don't want to miss out on it. So nature builds actually, we've got a good Maim, we've got a good Cleave, the Charge Mirror, we've got good Spikes Rune, Whirl as well, Nature Wield, everything on there, including Dancing Toxic. So it's really hard to find a sore point of the nature element. And we even have runes for the new advanced skills. But anyway, the ones which you would be missing out on if you went with a full nature build would be Sparkling Gift, although to be honest, that isn't so much about the damage output, it's about the effect, so you could go with a nature build and just, not worry about the damage on that. Another one is Lord of Winter. I mean, this is always going to be boosting water damage by a lot, so Flowing Blades is the main one here. Flowing Blades with Lord of Winter is going to be a seriously powerful skill combo. However, if you go with a nature build and you don't get your water stat up, then you're stuck with Primal Maim that is very good, but not really anything on Flowing Blades with that Lord of Winter boost. So those are the real problem ones, but otherwise, I mean, that's not much there really. That is a problem. You've got all the damage skills just how you want them. Oh, Volcano Eruption, that was it. That one as well. Volcano Eruption, this is a good fire damage skill, and you wouldn't have that, powerful. However, Forest Crash is the best nature skill in here, and that definitely has its uses too. So like, you'd be choosing between these two anyway. So having Forest Crash powerful would make it perfectly fine. So nature build on Night I think is actually really good. Probably the best element right now. However, water is definitely a good one too. And as we get more skirrins on the elements, because I mean we've got loads of nature ones now. Next we may get loads of light or something, and then that would be the best. So yeah, not to say go straight for nature, but that is the current best I think for Night. So anyway, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in a video tomorrow. Don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing just yet, but I've got a few different ideas of things I'm going to be doing. So yeah, hopefully it'll be something interesting that you'll enjoy. Thanks very much.